cool, clear water. Gotta have it. Gotta have it to live. I promised you I'd start the water filtration part of the Food Prep for the Lazy, Late, and Cheap series next, and so here we go. This is going to be called Water Filtration Woes, and it's funny how these videos go sometimes. This isn't a video that I thought I was going to have to make as a part of this series, but recent events having to do with how people will take something that I say in a video completely out of context and then run with it and pretend that I'm saying something that I never said, have forced me to conclude that I must, with everything I talk about, remind everybody that the context that we're talking about is bad times when things are not operating normally. You don't have power, you don't have light, your storage conditions may not be ideal, you don't have that little nice pantry to put things away in where the temperature is going to be the range that it's supposed to be in for storing food. Okay, and because of that, I'm saying that as a reset to the context of this series. But I also want to talk a little bit about what we're worried about when we're worried about water and water filtration, which is what I promised you the next part of this series would be about, water filtration. There's going to be this video, and then there's going to be the next video on water filtration, and there may actually be a third one on water filtration, and it's because it is a very misunderstood subject sometimes, and people don't really properly think it through. They'll think about one part of the problem. They think they bought a filter, and now that filter's got it handled. I know that in the previous episode I mentioned a gentleman who thought he'd bought a good water filter for prepping, when in fact all he'd gotten was something that was designed to use with tap water to improve the taste. That's the kind of thing we want to avoid, and that's why I'm doing this level set and reminding you that we're talking about bad times, maybe following a hurricane, a natural disaster where all we've got in terms of availability of water is from a lake or a stream or even standing water someplace, and we don't know what's in it. Okay, very important. So let's talk about the things that are problematic with water that we're sourcing from places that we're not too sure about, because this will get us to a point where we can understand what we have to do in order to filter or prepare or purify water carefully enough so that it's fit for human consumption. The problems that you'll have with water, I'm going to organize into a few different categories, and I realize that some of you out there that are really sticklers, you're going to say, well, that shouldn't go in that category and that shouldn't go in that category. I am deliberately oversimplifying this, and that's because I don't think it's terribly interesting for people to have me go into a great deal of detail about the difference between a bacteria, a virus, biological versus non-biological, cyst material, paramecium, and other aquatic life that's very small. Let's just all throw that into a category called biological threats. You see where I'm going with this? I don't want to get too deep into the woods with it. I want to talk about things at a high enough level so that it's interesting, but still identifies the problems so that we can talk about them intelligently. So what are the problems with water that we're going to source from places that we're not too sure about? Well, the first basic problem is called turbidity. Now, turbidity is just a 10-cent, 25-cent, 50-cent word that means the water's cloudy, it's dirty, there's stuff floating in it. We pick it up and we look at it, and it doesn't look like the nice clear bottled water I've got here. There's something about it. It might be red-colored, brown-colored, brown-colored. We don't know what that could be. That could be anything if the sewers have backed up into standing water out in your front yard or in your street, and that's the only water that you've got available to you, supposedly to get drinking water from. Ouch, that's scary. But basic turbidity, we can take a look at it and see that it's cloudy, it's brown, it's red, it's green, it's something, okay? We need to make sure that when we're taking care of our water and we're going to make it fit for human consumption, that we handle basic turbidity. Now, that isn't because water that's brown is always bad. If you go back and you research much of human history, you'll find out that an awful lot of water that people drink, that's safe to drink, you take a look at it and it's a little cloudy. It looks like it's got a little bit of dirt in it. This was very common in the Old West in the United States, where people would have to dig down and get well water out in the middle of some, God knows what, mining town or something. And sure enough, because it came from a well, and the well wasn't in rock, you'd get oftentimes a little bit of dirt in that water. And that basic dirt's not really a problem in the most of the cases, except when you get lead or arsenic or something like that in it. But still, if we can handle that problem, we want to handle it. Turbidity is our first problem. The second problem is what we're going to call biological threats. Now remember, I said before, I'm not going to get deep into the woods about the difference between what all these biological threats are, but they pretty much go into a few categories: bacteria, viruses, aquatic life, things that live in water that are really, really small, the byproducts and the toxins of that aquatic life, things like what are called biological cysts, paramecium, all kinds of stuff. Okay, so that's all the biological and viral stuff we need to worry about, and that's another category. And it's important that we worry about that because sometimes there are filters that they'll handle one thing and they won't handle another, and we need to know how we're going to deal with that as effectively and as inexpensively as possible. And again, reset what we're talking about here. Bad times. It's not normal. You can't turn on a tap and just filter some water to make it taste good. And you can't necessarily just trust that you go into a sporting goods store and you buy something that says water filter for camping and that it's, you know, perfect for your needs. The third problem is chemical. We're going to call it chemical, but it includes a whole lot of things. There's some overlap with biologically based toxins, things that are created by living organisms that are toxic substances that are in the water, runoff from fertilizers and perhaps industrial waste, petrochemicals, things like that. Not to mention heavy concentrations of things, or heavy enough concentrations of things like lead, arsenic, cadmium, heavy metals. We want to make sure that we handle all of those problems as well. And we're going to put that all into an area that we're going to call chemical contamination. Now, those are all the problems that we need to deal with when we're going to make sure that our water is fit for human consumption. And as I get into talking about water filters and water preparation in the next segment, those are the things that we're going to be talking about. So I strongly suspect that when I start talking about those filters in the next episode, somebody's going to tell me that, well, this filter's good, this filter's good, this filter's good. Please do me the honor of at least watching this video. Keep in mind what we're talking about, and then I'm going to show you kind of a multifaceted approach to your water needs so that you can make sure that what you're drinking in bad times is something that's fit for you to drink. That's Zombie Tactics for today, and we'll be back with you soon. Have a good day. See you next time. Bye-bye.